Hi, I'm Brady with Capital Area Housing Partnership. Welcome to our common toilet problem class. Today we're going to be working on some common problems that people have with toilets. Maybe your water shutoffs aren't working, you may have a bad flush valve, you may have a bad flapper, maybe your wax ring's bad. Those are things we're going to work on today just so you're more familiar with fixing those common problems. We'll start with your shutoff valve. Anytime you're working on your toilet, you're going to want to shut your water off. Oftentimes you'll have different types of shutoffs. We have a quarter turn shutoff here, to only require a quarter turn to shut it off. So in that case, this one will be shut off. You may have a gate valve where you would have to turn it repetitively to get it to shut off. This is a simpler one. Again, only a quarter turn. So once the water is shut off to the toilet, you'll be able to work on things if you needed to. What we're going to go ahead and start with here, we'll go ahead and start with the flush valve here. Oftentimes the flush valve may break, hang up, or just not be working properly, and you may need to replace it. So what we've gone with a replacement flush valve here, this one is from Home Depot, just a regular tank lever. We'll go ahead and take off the old one. In this case, we're just going to put the old one back in as there's nothing physically wrong with it, but this is the procedure you'd go to replace yours at home. The nuts on the flush valve turn from a different direction than normal. So it's actually a reverse thread on this. So you'd want to turn this backwards to remove the thread on that. It's also going to be connected to your flapper here. Typically there's a chain with a hook on the end of it. You may have something different. This one does have a hook with a chain. Go ahead and get that disconnected. Take your nut off of the flush valve and it will just turn right out of there. At that point, you take your new flush valve and go ahead and just reinsert it back in. The gasket that's on the inside of the flush valve here, you want to make sure that's in place. Go ahead and get your nut, reinstall that. And that would take care of replacing your flush valve. The flush valve connects to your flapper, which is another common problem. Both of these will cause your toilet to leak periodically and may need to be replaced. The flapper is down in the bottom. That's what seals the tank, so your water only exits the tank when you're actually using the flush valve to empty the tank. To replace the flapper, there are a few different styles. This one just connects on with ears. What you want to do is just reach down and just with gentle pressure, pull up on the ears, and the flapper will come off of that. This is what your flapper will look like. It does have just the two little ears that clip on the bottom of the tank there. This is the chain, and this is the hook that connects it to the flush valve. So what you want to do again, get your new flush valve, or your new flapper. Put it back down in the toilet. You want to push down until you feel the ears kind of snap into place. Go ahead and get your chain and reattach it to the flush valve. Once you have that attached, you want to make sure that the flapper goes all the way down so that water is sealed in the tank and is not going down out of the tank. Go ahead and check your flush valve, raise it up and down, make sure that seals. You have a little bit of excess chain there and nothing is binding and letting water leave the tank. Once you have that done, you want to go ahead and check the tank. If you look inside the tank with the flapper replaced, you shouldn't see any water leaving the tank. The tank will be full and the water should be standing still. If you see any movement in the tank, typically your flapper is bad. You'll want to check that and maybe readjust it. That takes care of two of the problems people often have, your flush valve and your flapper. The other common problem people have is your wax ring. Your wax ring is located at the bottom of the toilet, and that's what seals your toilet to the flange underneath. We have your standard type here, which is just a regular wax ring, which is just what it says. It's a ring made of wax. It has kind of a diverter here in the middle. And that's the gasket there that lets all your sewage go down into your drain pipe, and the wax is what seals the toilet to the flange. To replace this, you'd want your water shut off again. You want to drain the tank and the toilet completely. Once you have everything drained completely, you'll be ready to remove the toilet to get to your wax ring. You got your water shut off here, and you'll go ahead and remove your supply line. Once your supply line is removed, you'll have 2 nuts on either side of the toilet that you'll need to remove. So once you have those 2 removed, you'll be able to remove your toilet. Toilets are fairly heavy, and oftentimes you'll want 2 people to remove them. I'll go ahead and do it myself now, but typically 2 people is better than 1 for a wax ring replacement. So once the toilet's been removed, you see where the wax ring, currently there would be a wax ring there. So this would be sitting here, it would be smashed down, and you'd want to remove that. Typically, a putty knife, a shim, something small, will just scrape that off of there. You'll remove the old wax ring. You'll go ahead and get the new wax ring down. We'll go ahead and leave this one in place and install it today. So once you have that in place, you're going to want to line your holes up here with your bolts here to hold it down. Oftentimes when you're replacing a wax ring, you're going to replace your toilet bolts as well. You may find these are corroded and need to be replaced. They're only a few dollars and typically replaced every time you do the wax ring. They just go into a slot here and come right out. So those may need to be replaced, and if you do, it's a simple replacement. So once everything is in place, you just want to pick the toilet up and try to guide your holes over those 2. So, not as easy as it sounds, but you want to just try to line them up. And then once you get them in place, just gentle pressure, and it'll set the wax ring. You go ahead, reinstall your toilet bolts. You have your washer and the bolt. You want to go ahead and tighten all these down, but don't over tighten them or you can crack the porcelain. So just make sure they're tight but not excessively tight. Once those are down, go ahead and reattach your supply line. Turn your water back on. Let the tank fill. Go ahead and flush the tank and check for leaks around the bottom. If you notice any leaks at that point, you're going to have to repeat the process. Typically, you won't see any leaks if you've done the process the way we've shown today. There are other types of wax rings that are available. If wax is not what you'd like to use, they make another one called a green gasket. It doesn't use wax. It's a rubber gasket that's supposed to work better than the wax ones. They are more expensive, but it is another option available. And that's our class for today with toilet repairs. Thank you for joining us.